What's up? Welcome. I am so glad you are here listening and spending time with me today. Release Your Inner Power talks about life, the trenches, the decisions, and the wins that we have now, today, and that have experienced in our past. There are stories, encouragement, tools, and tips to take those next steps to release that inner power and connect with something that is said or someone, a special guest maybe, that will boost your week. I am your host, Shauna B. Here we go. Hello. Welcome back to Release Your Inner Power podcast. My guest today is Monica. Welcome, Monica, to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to talk about this. Me and Monica had a conversation probably a couple weeks ago now. And I love what she has to offer. I love that she helps people as well as travels wrapped up in there. And it was like right up my alley. So I'm so excited to chat with you today about all the things. Tell us who Monica is and how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah. I love that you love travel as well, because it's like literally the number one thing that I'm like the most passionate about. It has just been such a positive, beautiful experience. Like going through any type of travel, I just believe is just so good for your like mind, body, soul. So I know we definitely connected on that. Yeah. So like you said, my name is Monica. I'm in Canada, a fellow Canadian. And for the last couple of years, I have been working in international project management. And then, and that was a really beautiful sort of time in my life. It took me all over the world working on projects that were really about, building business development, building communities and things like that. And I remember years ago talking to my husband and saying that if I could do anything, for the rest of my life, it would be like being paid to volunteer. So I knew like at the back of my head, like I always wanted to do work that was servicing other people. Like somehow I am like helping people to like grow and build. And so that had always been sort of in the back of my head. And after university, like I said, like I ended up getting the big corporate job and all that stuff. Things were going great. But then the last couple of years have been difficult. I have two young kids. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And of course, we had COVID and things like that. And I really, when I went back to work, I really started to reevaluate things in my life and trying to really, I wasn't super passionate about the work that I was doing anymore. Things had changed a lot, as they do. People grow, things change, right? We adapt. We have to, I wanted to keep perspective of the things that I really resonated with. So I started to do like some deep dive work on myself. Growing up, I came from a very chaotic childhood. It was just a difficult scenario with me and my family. Broken home. Long story short, my mother is an addict, and me and my brother were really struggling, and so I had a lot of sort of trauma that I was starting to realize that I had not dealt with as well. So I was kind of like having this big, like, it was a time in my life, like over the last 2 years or so, that like everything just seemed to be coming together at once. It was like I was reevaluating my life. What was I like super passionate about? What did I love? Like, what was that sort of missing piece? And then also recognizing that I had a lot of healing to do that I hadn't, maybe I had just pushed deep down. And so I started to look at like the online space and, what opportunities were there. Of course, we know there's many. And that's where I decided to get into the travel industry. Because like I said at the beginning, travel was like that one sort of core thing that no matter what I did, I loved talking about it. I loved, helping people travel. I loved traveling, with my family was a whole new challenge and experience that's been beautiful. And so that became, again, sort of like a bigger part of my life again, once, things were opened back up and, our head was above water, with our children, mom life. Right. So, um, I ended up finding, a program, which was, a travel coaching certification program. And from there, I decided to go into travel coaching, which is a relatively new concept for people. Of course, we all know about like, the hundreds of thousands of different types of coaches there are out there. There's many, and they're, and lovely in all different types of niches. And so I decided to get into coaching and specifically in the wellness niche. So sort of fast forwarding today, I just in the last few months opened up my business as a trauma recovery travel coach. So I I'm kind of turning that mess into a message, and those things that I've experienced in my life that were difficult. I used travel. I didn't realize, but I realized like later on that all of those travel experiences were really building up like confidence, and that were really healing. And I was doing those different types of experiences at different points in my life that I needed that sort of exposure, that learning, or that personal development. So in sort of a nutshell, that's and I'll get into more detail about, more about what it is that I do with my clients. But yeah, so that's what I do today. I'm a trauma recovery travel coach, and helping my clients with their wellness travels.
I love all of that. Yeah, when we started chatting and you talking about that, and through traveling and through like exploring other things, like how when we were talking about how much that can change us on the inside, and sometimes we don't realize, like in the moment on this travel or wherever, this either it's a journey or it's just a vacation or what have you, until you come back and then you're like, wait a second, and then you can like it's just different. You come back different.
Yeah.
Almost like it's almost like there's healing and discovery when you go somewhere, because it's like taking you out of like your comfort zone. It's taking you out of what you know. It's taking you out of your habits. Like you're doing everything differently and you're more
Yeah.
open to things.
Yeah.
And it's so cool what you can do depending on what it is, but what you can do. And then you come back and you're like, wow, I just did all of this, and I had all of, it's nice to take inventory on what just
Yeah.
happened later on when you come back. And sometimes you may not even realize it until something happens and you're like, whoa, that's different.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, like I had sort of one sort of big pivotal travel experience early on um, that really like changed the direction of my life. And so like this was quite a few years ago now, but I can remember like I was sitting in my room. I was around 20, and I just was absolute at my wit's end with all of the chaos that had been happening in my life. And I felt really stuck. So like I was just like sitting in my room holding my head, tears pouring down my face, like absolutely at my rock bottom. And I knew I needed to make a change in my life, but I didn't know what that change needed to be. And I knew it had to be pretty drastic, because I needed to get out of my current situation. It wasn't safe, it wasn't healthy. I was at the point in my life where I was able to start making those decisions for myself. I was able to move out. And so it kind of just hit me that I needed to get as far away as possible, and I needed to travel. And I was like, okay, well, I need to make money and I want to get as far away as possible. And like I said, I'm in Canada. So I booked a one-way ticket to Australia. And I didn't know, I wasn't like an experienced traveler at that point. My family didn't travel. I had been to the United States the year before that for a spring break trip, which was not like a travel, a proper travel experience. It was like a good time party experience, right? It wasn't the same thing. I was looking for more of a sort of a restart of my life is kind of what I looked at it like, because I was like, maybe I'll just live there. Maybe I'll move there and I'll just stay there. And so I knew I could get a working visa. That was pretty easy for Canadians at the time, still is. And I booked that one-way ticket and off I went. And within a few months, like I saved up through the summer. Their seasons are opposite. So I'm like, I'll get away for the winter. This is perfect. I went, and within probably the first 2 weeks, I started to realize like how beneficial this whole move was, this whole experience was. And I was planning to go there for a year to work and travel, like I said. But within like the first 2 weeks of the trip, I felt like I was undoing years of the trauma and like the garbage that I had been pushing deep down. Like I felt like I was becoming more free. I was like the clarity was there. Like you kind of alluded to it already, but when you when you are able to get out of sort of your daily routine and that monotony of like what is your everyday existence, especially if you're looking for a change, it's hard to figure what that change can be, and it's hard to get that momentum. So I mean, I did something pretty extreme. My situation was pretty extreme. So I moved away, but yeah, within the first couple of weeks, I felt like I was undoing that all of that depression and things like that were being lifted. And I think it's because travel is really an act of self-love. um I've sort of boiled it down to like it is an act of self-love. You're doing something solely for yourself. I didn't care, what everybody thought, if they thought that I was making the wrong move or not. Like I just knew that I needed to improve my situation. And I'm the only one who is, capable of doing that. And so this is what I decided to do. And it was an extremely healing process. And it uncovered a lot of things in my life that I needed to make decisions on and I needed to make shifts on. And yeah, so that was really the first sort of travel experience that I went on that I started to really see like big changes. And it wasn't just being away, it was also the changes that happened when I came back. And I came back with more confidence because I had time and space and clarity to really do that interpersonal work. I came back really as a different person, and I was way more in control of my life. I had sort of fallen back in love with life again. I knew that there was like love and happiness and all of these things were possible, something that I really hadn't seen for so long. It was sort of brought back into my life. And so I owe that experience a whole lot because I really feel like it changed the trajectory of where my life was going.
Yeah. When you were talking about after a few weeks, you started to notice things, right? You started to notice shifts and changes and stuff. Did you, with that awareness, did you do something or were you just more open and curious for the rest of the year that you were there? Like, how did you take that information and what did you do with it?
Yeah, so I did start journaling. I started journaling and I started, just sharing my experience on social media, and really talking about these experiences that were, some of them were very touristy, some of them were really sort of off the beaten track. And, um, just talking in general about, wow, like this sort of experience that I went on, like say I was working in sort of like a rural area, how what I was learning about life and learning about, I at one point I lived on this island and it was a beautiful experience and I lived in like a dorm style home and I was learning how to sort of cohabitate with all of these different people from all these different backgrounds and different languages and all that sort of thing. And just talking about what that experience was like, and then journaling for like inner sort of more interpersonal work. The journaling was where I was when I was writing my reflections, and that was just sort of a fun thing. Like I always liked to sort of write things down. And so when I was doing that, I was recognizing that like, oh wow, like I was starting to like give the situation more grace. I was, not like that sort of victim mentality, that sort of anger was being lifted because I was able to start focusing on the positive things that were happening in my life. So like that reflection of like, wow, I met these people. Um, I ended up meeting my husband in Australia and we're still together today. So I mean, that was like a whole nother piece, but um, yeah, just I think like documenting a bit about what I was going through. Like I said, I didn't quite realize until after the impact, like, but going through that, I was just feeling that relief. And oftentimes when you've been burdened by so much, that just makes such a huge difference when you're able to change that environment and breathe.
Yeah.
I was able to
Yeah.
step into my true self again that I hadn't seen for so long.
Yeah. I know. I I haven't I haven't been gone for a year, but just having like a transformative little trip of what you can see, like the awarenesses that you get and then the information that you get. But then when you come back home, like you said, after a year, you came back to Canada. Like when you come home and then all of this stuff that you just like learned and how you can implement it when you come home, it's like validation to yourself. It's self-validating
Yeah.
that you have like leveled up, if you will, and it just gives you so much more, like you're empowering yourself, you're motivating
Yeah.
yourself, and you're more open to like what else, you know?
Yeah.
It's like if I just did this and this is freaking amazing and it feels awesome, like what
Yeah.
else? What else
I
is there?
literally, I
You
felt
want
like a
more.
superhero when I came back. I was like, wow, like I had just worked in a whole different country and navigated that whole scenario, like currency and banking systems, like the whole, like that whole piece, right? I had to find my own apartment, made like new friends, had to like do job search, like all of those different pieces, like are very empowering and like so good for your self development. But then like outside of that, like I had also like traveled so much within Australia. I also traveled to Thailand and New Zealand on that trip and was seeing like a whole different world. And I was just so proud of myself for really changing what I was because I mean, like I said, I was really in a negative spot. And the people that I was surrounded with were very much in that difficult spot. And I just decided that I needed something more. And this was such a beautiful opportunity that I decided to take. And it was really, it wasn't that somebody said, "Hey, I want to do this." It was more so like, let's just go and we'll figure it out. I I was younger, but I felt invincible when I returned. I was like, wow, I can get any job I want. I can navigate any scenario. It was really empowering.
I love that. It's hard to describe the feeling. You know what I mean? You can describe it as best you can, but it's like you said,
Yeah.
a superhero. It's like it's hard to describe it until you feel it. And it's so awesome to be in that space because it's like you want to just conquer the next thing. Like on to the
Yeah.
next, like what else can I do? Like I've done all this really cool stuff. What other cool things,
Yeah.
what else can I get done? Which is so fun. It's so
Yeah.
fun. After this big trip that was pivotal for you, where did you go from there?
Yeah, so that's when I decided to get my degree in international commerce and my minor in global development, which is so I ended up going back to school and was really trying to align my career with something that was, like I said, sort of like servicing other people for their betterment. I had worked in like these really marginalized communities and things like that, and I wanted to sort of pair like my passion for travel and like bettering the world now that I had seen so much of it with like making it a career, making money at the same time. So that's when I went into and did my degree, and then outside of that I worked with the college, and I did some contracts overseas through that work. And I ended up living in Dominican Republic and working on a coffee cooperative and doing business development for them. I ended up moving to Ecuador. So I was in Ecuador for 5 months and I worked with the university there, helping international students come back and forth because I was an international student. So I was able to sort of help coordinate that. So I did that and then traveled around South America. And then when I finally graduated, I ended up moving to Saudi Arabia as well, and I did a contract for 8 months in Saudi Arabia where we opened up an international women's college, and that was a crazy, wonderful, intense experience. Yeah, definitely one for the books for sure. But all of these different opportunities were, at different parts of my life. It was like I was trying to learn something about myself and I was pushing myself in these different directions. And it's been a very wonderful, like, healing growth experience. And yeah,
So what
spent,
was
spent the better part of 10 years basically traveling.
that's like I feel like that's like majority of people's dream. Like I want to see the world. I want to know parts of all of these different places in the world. It's like people always think about traveling and dreaming about it and wanting to do that, but then actually doing it is a whole another thing. Like some do,
Yeah.
then some feel stuck and they feel like they can't do it.
Yeah.
What
That's true.
with you working with all of these like companies and stuff, like how I know that you were talking about like you really wanted to help people and I almost feel like all of these experiences were like building you to do this trauma recovery travel coach, but where was the pivot where you were like done with this and starting this new venture or journey?
Yeah. So, like over the last couple of years when I realized that because the travel had helped tremendously in me being able to manage my situation, manage and had started that healing journey, but I recognized that like what the sort of the common factor was I was always on a travel experience to learn something and about myself and to heal something about my circumstances. And so when I made that connection, I actually did a course with Tony Robbins. And that's when they started talking about turning your mess into a message. And I was like, wow, so I have used these travel experiences to heal. And that was eventually the connection I made. And I'm like, what am I healing from? I'm healing from like decades of childhood trauma. And so we like wellness travel, people have heard about. I'm a little bit more niche in the sense that I do a lot more of that trauma recovery coaching. And I pair it with a travel experience. And together we collaborate to sort of build that travel experience together that aligns with their goals, their aspirations, their healing. And that's basically what I had done for myself. And so I'm, you know, so this was in the last 2 years that I sort of made this whole connection and started working towards that. And then, like I said, the last couple of months, I ended up opening up my business.
So how does your business work? Like if I was to be like, "Oh, Monica, she sounds really interesting. I want to work with you." Like how does that whole process in a bubble like work?
Yeah. So I usually set up sort of like a like a discovery call because one of the things is that depending on sort of where you're at in your healing journey, I don't want to interfere with other more traditional methods of healing, like counseling and therapy, because that's a very crucial part. If people who have gone through some, pretty intense experiences, there is definitely a time and a place where that needs to probably happen. Um, because I work with cases that are a little bit more intense. So I do work with my clients when they come on. I do an assessment with them to make sure that they're sort of at that point in their life where they're able to sort of take it to the next step. So often I work with clients who are just feeling like they haven't broken into that next chapter of their life. Like they're still feeling stuck. They've filled their tool belt, their toolbox with all of these different things, which is essentially, what I had done. I had, done the therapy, I had done the counseling, I had, all the techniques. I had put things into practice and I was managing well, but I wasn't quite breaking into that next step in my life, like that better part of my life. Didn't have that breakthrough until I went on a yoga retreat. Actually, is where that sort of pivoted for me. So I help people who are sort of at that point that they've done some healing for themselves already. They know that they sort of need help in coaching that next step because I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a counselor. I don't have those credentials. So I want people to make sure that they're at a point where they have, done that work for themselves and they're really able to have that sort of self-empowerment piece. Like they're able to really take their situation and make a change. And they don't know how to accomplish that. And they don't have those pieces to sort of put it together. I really feel like travel is a really good way for you to break into that next chapter of your life, essentially.
Hey there, do you need some more tools to help boost your week? I got you. I got you. Head on over to www.igniteddecisions.com and there is 4 different resources that you can use to help clear your mind, get things done, checking in, 10 ways to better your day, and to be able to plan more me time. Yes, plan more me time. Head on over to www.igniteddecisions.com to get your freebies today to help boost your week. Yeah, yes. So do they do they work with you? Do they work with you and then you kind of like help them plan like a trip, or do they take the trip while they're working with you? Like how I guess
Yeah.
my brain
So
is like, do you do this like trip with them and like do you talk to them before and after? Like where's the trip and then
yeah.
we're working with you in that?
For sure, for sure. So I do like consultations. So if somebody's just looking at planning a wellness trip themselves, like they're like, I want to do, my passions are this, I'm just trying to heal from this. What sort of things do you offer? I do a 90-minute consultation. And then that's where I do an assessment beforehand. So like when we're able to meet for those 90 minutes, we're able to curate an itinerary and I provide suggestions and sort of like sort of an itinerary for them, a draft itinerary, and then we build that together. Um, Past that point, if they're looking for more help as far as like mental health support goes, more resources, I have more comprehensive packages where we do before, during, and after. So, you know, we'll do some sessions before the trip with the understanding that they're going to go on the trip. I do some sessions with them there, which is a lot of like mindset practices and goal setting and I have lots of resources that I provide them with so that they're able to sort of work through that so that they're prepared for their travels. And then there's other fun stuff like packing videos and things like that, of course, too, which, a little bit more lighthearted stuff. So that they're prepared for sort of the wellness piece, but then also like the fun part. And then there is activities for them to do or exercises for them to like more reflection pieces. So there's a travel journal, things like that. So it's going to stimulate that appreciation and gratitude for when they're actually away. Because I find travel is one of the best ways to really start to appreciate the small things in your life because you're in this beautiful environment. You can appreciate where you are, and then you're able to sort of, because you have that space, you're able to have that clarity to start thinking about what are the like the small things in my life that I'm grateful for, and how can I take this momentum from this trip and bring it back home. And so then there's a post trip reflection coaching that I do as well, which is how we implement the things from the travel that they've learned, and they're able to implement it into the more of their day-to-day life, so that they can keep that momentum going.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And
Yeah.
how cool. Like, how cool. Because I'm sure I cannot be the only one, but like, I'm sure there's many people out there that are like, oh, if I could just do this trip and I could just get away and what a cool way to add so much more to it than just going away for like a reset. Like, it is like a
Yeah.
reset and like so much more to that.
Hmm.
And to be able to guide them through that is so awesome. That is so cool. I love what you do. I think it's great.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not that you can't accomplish. I do have lots of sort of like tips and practices that you can do for even like short, it could be a weekend trip where you're just changing, your environment and giving yourself that time. It doesn't have to be a big extended trip. I mean, I generally do work with clients who are taking longer trips, like more than a week, because they do take more. I'm also a travel agent, so I'm able to help with those sort of logistics and the bookings and things like that as well. But I've shifted really to the travel coaching because that's where I have the most value. But I do sort of like work with them so that they can, you know, figure out a plan and sort of take some of that preparation off their plates as well so that they can have one less thing to sort of worry about when they're planning these bigger trips.
Yeah, more smooth and ease in the process of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different types of experiences, right? So that's where like I work with them and I align different types of travel experiences with their goals. So I've done a lot of different things. I've done safaris, I've done yoga retreats, I've worked in other countries, I've done volunteering and like there is lots of different opportunities for people based on what they're trying to get out of the experience. And sometimes you just need somebody to help figure that out what it is that will be the most, positive and good, um, bang for your buck, essentially. Like you're getting, the most value out of the experience. So helping them align, because I mean, it's like the internet is, we're inundated with all the different types of opportunities out there. Just like, travel is a big topic. And I mean, I do like help clients with smaller trips as well, but generally it's like more than a week.
Yeah. That was going to be one of my questions is what's the average length of the trips that you seem to help with?
Yeah, close to 3 months is kind of what I'm seeing. It's the 3 month mark seems to be pretty consistent.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean that's because that takes a lot of planning, right? Too. Like that's there's lots of logistics that go into that. And you can certainly find experiences like a 1 week yoga trip. Like there's lots of those opportunities available, and sometimes you need the help to figure out or where you should go to take that. So again, that's where those sort of smaller consultations help, because they might have an idea of what they're looking for, but just need help sorting that out. And I've gotten away from the travel agency piece because it's very easy for people to book their own travel these days. It's knowing what opportunities are out there and aligning them is where I, offer the most value, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, so you're spending your money wisely.
Yeah. Yeah. Another tip, right? Especially
Yeah.
with travel, especially with travel.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So how do the listeners find you if they would like to work with you, or if they're interested or just want to chat about what you talked about today?
Yeah. So everything I basically have, like all my social media handles, my website, everything is just my name. So Monica Newland, if you put that into TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and then in Google, you'll find all of my social media links and my website and everything that I'm pretty active across the platforms. So you can see a little bit more about, I talk a little bit more about what you get in the sessions and, why I feel that travel is so healing. And my website has lots of information on it as well, pricing and all that kind of stuff for the packages.
And I'll have some of the links too in the show notes so it can be easy to find for people to click on and be able to connect with you as well.
Amazing.
Do you have, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you have a piece of advice for somebody that may be thinking that this is something that they want to do? Like, they almost in the same situation as you, they want to change, they want, something different. And this sounds like something that they could do, but they just can't, they feel like they just can't get there. Like they feel like they're stuck. Do you have any piece of advice that could maybe help them make the decision to do what is best for them?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of twofold because the one piece is that, money is always the difficulty, is the number one sort of challenge for people is that, I mean, especially I get it. And especially in today's times, things are expensive. I actually just started a community, which is where I teach a lot about like budgeting and how to save and how to get free travel, how to get like free accommodations, all of those sort of things. It's called the Travel Insight Circle. So if people are sort of finding that there's challenges with how they can actually make that financially work, I give lots of advice on that. But from a sort of healing perspective or, doing something for yourself, I think what had happened to me was when you choose to not deal with things, eventually your body, your mind's going to make you, and you'll have to sort of face the music. And so I think, being proactive and I mean, and it takes time, right? Like these things, that's why I have these longer, sort of more comprehensive coaching packages because, someone might want to go on a trip that's, but it's going to take them a year to get there. I can start working with them, earlier on so that we can put those things in place so that we can build that plan. If you're trying to make a big change in your life I mean, it could be that you want to relocate like I did for, a year, or it could be, you want to take a sabbatical, you want to take a career break, like that sort of thing. Um, or you could just be looking for like, I just want to have, take my couple of weeks of vacation and really get the best bang for their buck, and really get something really worthwhile out of the experience. So, I mean, I help on sort of across those, like that whole spectrum. Um, but I would say like, just start somewhere. And, I do have a free resource on my website, which is about wellness travel and how you can transform your life in a trip. And I would say start there. That'll give you some perspective on the different types of opportunities and why I feel it's important. But yeah, you know, just start looking at this as an option because therapy and counseling, like I said, there's definitely a time and a place for it. It's also very expensive. Um, my healthcare doesn't cover that. And so I'm paying out of pocket for a lot of these things. And I think if you're feeling stuck and you feel like you've exhausted your options, I think healing through travel is really a great idea and a good suggestion. And it's not for everybody, but for the right person, it's really gonna transform their life.
Yeah, and I feel like it's kind of a win-win, like wins all around. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're not going to lose by taking a trip to try to help with your
Yeah.
healing. Like there's no, you know, there's no negative in
There's
that.
not a lot of
It's
downside
all
to it.
positive
No.
things. Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that. I always like to ask my guests that are on about their superpower. There is so many different things that we have to bring to this world and all the hats that we wear and how we help people or how we, how we have different skills or things about us, our uniqueness. And so I always like to ask people what their superpower is to see, just to see all the uniqueness of the people that I chat with. What is your superpower?
Um, that's funny because I mean, I could like instantly my mind goes to like travel again because I can basically someone can tell me what it is that they're interested in and I can pretty well put together like a pretty good itinerary for them in like an hour. Um, so that's a pretty good superpower, but I feel like at this point in my life, my superpower is keeping two young kids alive and happy and healthy and um I'm creating a much different life than I grew up in for them. So
Mhm.
for me, this is a huge one.
Yeah, that is so cool. I love that. It's so true when you have an upbringing that is not quote unquote in the norm, right? That is not in the norm. And once you have kids, it's a whole different perspective and light of like, whoa,
Yeah.
I I would like it to be like this. This
Yeah.
is how I
Yeah.
would like to present it to them and see how they do. It's interesting. It's interesting how once you have kiddos, how many things, like you said, like some of the lessons or messages that come to you, like how many of the things you're actually like, oh, this is what I need to work on, and this is what I need
Yeah.
to for them because they are now here. And
Yeah. Yeah.
like you said, keeping them alive, happy, and healthy is the thing.
Yeah. Like you kids have, I've had a lot of triggers that had happened after having kids I didn't know I needed to address. And yeah, kids just like for me, it's been a wonderful, beautiful, chaotic roller coaster.
Yeah.
But definitely, I think being able to provide them with a different life and a different perspective than and not having that fear, like they don't have that fear that I grew up in. For me, that's my superpower these days.
Love it.
Like
I
I
love
said,
it.
keeping them healthy and happy and
And I
safe.
love yes, and I love the roller coaster description. That is like so
Yeah.
perfect.
It's
So
like
perfect.
within like the
It's
hour,
so
it's just like
perfect.
we're, like the mornings, like getting all the kids like out the door this morning. It's just like, oh my God. Is it?
I feel like that's like a daily. It's like, how many twists and turns shall we be on this morning?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it going to be a straighter one or is it going to be really curvy this morning?
Yeah. And my 2-year-old is like the epitome of like the temper tantrum terrible twos. Like he is like he's just got a huge personality, like big love, big happiness, and then just he can be grumpy and moody and he's mean to his brother. And my oldest one, he's just like very like easygoing and yeah, and it's a very different dynamic. And I'm like always just trying to manage all this and manage myself and learning how to yeah, navigate my own
And two and
emotions, I
four.
guess.
2 and 4 is a
It's busy.
yeah. I'm like, how do I describe that? It is definitely busy and it's definitely trying, but not in a bad way. It's like having to move and pivot and like ebb and flow with them. 2 and 4,
Yeah.
it's those are like pivotal years too for them. So it's just
Yeah.
all this coming together. That's why I love
Yeah.
the roller coaster. I was like, yes, that is perfect.
But what's interesting, and I'm just making this connection now, is that like really like because I had traveled and I had a lot of unpredictability within the traveling, like like there is a certain amount of unpredictability that comes with that. Like that has been easier for me than I think I initially anticipated because I'm like, okay, I can pivot. I can like, okay, this is going terribly. Like let's try something new. But definitely, kids are, they're busy and they're a lot in the
Yes.
most beautiful way.
Yes. Yes.
Which
And I
is
don't know about you, mine have helped me learn some of the lessons that I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do
yeah.
with that right now. And then either they do it or they like mirror something or they bring it up where you're like, oh yeah, that's me.
Oh yeah.
That's me. I got to
Yeah.
work on that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's got to change. Okay. Thank you for showing me that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. The healing journey continues. Definitely.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yes.
absolutely would
I
agree.
love it. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story and how you got started and how you help others and about your kiddos. It's always nice to hear all of those things. And I'm so glad to have had you on the show today.
Thank you so much. This has been lovely. I'm so glad that we connected, and I appreciate you giving me a platform to sort of share my story and share what I'm all about. And hopefully I'll be able to help more people. So thank you
Yes,
so
yes.
much.
And if this has spoken to you or you want to reach out either to me or to Monica and let us know what was helpful for you in this episode or just have questions or just want to chat and say hi, please reach out to us. Everything is going to be in the show notes and we would be happy to chat with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, learned something new, or got some gems to take away that will boost your week. I release a new episode each week, so make sure to click that follow button to not miss what is coming next. If you love the show or want to share a story, send me a quick message. I love hearing from listeners. If you know someone who needs this episode in their life, go ahead and share it with them. I'm sure they would love you for it. If you are looking to connect more, check out the show notes for all the social links, my website. I would love to hear how this episode helped you and what you loved about it. If there's a topic you want to hear about, send that too. All right, ladies, now is the time to release your inner power.